Hey Bolts, welcome to Hot Ones Legacy Edition. We're your hosts, Savannah,
Ellie,
Ava,
and Megan.
On today's episode, we'll be interviewing Mr. Beerman and Mr. Hammond. Here's how things will work. We have a series of questions to ask each of you that will help the Legacy community get to know you a little better. But as the questions get more interesting, the wings are going to get way more spicy. So get your milk ready, everyone, because now you are in the hot seat.
Okay, starting up with number 1. We are going to ask the first question, and then you're going to answer it, so forth, yeah. So, for Mr. Beerman, why did you become a teacher? Like, why did you decide to become a teacher?
I had a really awesome experience in 8th grade with my 8th grade U.S. history teacher, and ever since then I was working with kids in a lot of extracurricular work during college, and then I decided to get my master's in education. I thought that was it. So that was kind of my deal. I've only been teaching high school 2 years, and I absolutely love it. So it's a blast. So. You guys make it a blast, and this is a benefit of this.
Okay, Mr. Hammond, you can answer next.
I like the flats, in case anyone cares.
I'm with you.
Thank you. Yeah, not many people like the flats, but the flats are the best. So I decided to become a teacher. I didn't want to become a teacher when I was young. And one of my friends, I was in Texas on a little mini vacation, and she's a teacher, and she invited me to her second grade classroom. And I went and had a blast. I read a Dr. Seuss book, and it was like Easter, and so I brought in candy, and the kids, liked my thing. And I got home, and I really started thinking about it. I was like, if I can have fun like that at work, I want to be a teacher. And so I went and got all my stuff in line. I applied to grad school and became a teacher. And it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made in my life.
Amazing. Wow. Okay. Now moving on to question 2. Ellie?
Okay, so what is your favorite high school event?
What is my favorite high school
Event?
Event at our school.
Sure. No, I think I got to be a part of a couple events last year, but with the shortened schedule, and we all got sent home in March. I was looking forward to helping be part of prom. I was signed up to be helping part of prom, but unfortunately we weren't able to do that. I think I really had a really fun time last year, although at first I was hesitant with the senior fashion show before prom, and being backstage and kind of helping people out and just seeing everybody in their grown-up attire, which was amazing, and just seeing people feeling like the kids feeling like this is really cool. So as seniors, and so I think for me that is probably my favorite takeaway from my first year of Legacy as an extra outside of the classroom activity.
And hopefully we'll get it this year, so we can do it, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mr. Hammond, you can answer that question.
I like pep assemblies. I know I have a very audience eager to hear that, but I like pep assemblies. I think they're a lot of fun, and I like the ability of you guys to bring in different elements of school and different participants that we don't normally think of in this community. And for me, it's a real unifying and fun event, and I can't wait to have them again. I just think they're fun to watch.
Awesome. Okay, and then moving on to the last question of round 1. Megan?
What is your favorite memory from working at Legacy?
Favorite memory from working at Legacy? I've only been working at Legacy for about 1.5 years or 2 years now, almost 2 years. But I think every time I see a student that is not, I don't have a one memory, but I think every time I see a student that's just not in the classroom, but out, even if it's on campus or somewhere else, and we have a conversation and just catching up, I think it's just great. Like I feel like the community at Legacy, students, you guys, I feel like you guys have a big role, and that's what it should be. And I feel like it's really nice to have those conversations with you guys. I do. No, let Mr. Hammond.
Put me in the hot seat, huh?
I am, man.
All right. My favorite memory. I got a hard question. I think my favorite memory was late in my first year. I transferred from middle school, and about midway through that first year, my evaluating administrator took me in and said, "Hey, Mr. Hammond, I just want to let you know, Patrick, call me Patrick, because that's what they do." Because I just want to let you know that you've really established yourself here, and to transfer in and to do it the way you did is something that your colleagues have really identified and you've earned the respect of your colleagues. And I was like, well, that was a really nice thing to say, and it just made me feel really proud to be here.
Awesome. So that is it for the questions. Thank you for your answers. How are the wings so far?
Spicy, not spicy.
Piece of cake.
Oh, word. Okay.
I don't know about Hammond over here, but
stuff
for
it
me,
up.
he's already looks a little, you know,
Sweating over there.
sweating over there a little bit.
Nah.
Got that headband. He's good.
All right. So the first question for round 2 is, what job would you have if you weren't a teacher, or what subject would you teach if you couldn't teach the one you teach?
Gosh, I just think it would be if I couldn't teach social studies. I think teaching kinesiology or physical education. I think that'd be fun to have kids be active. Most students want to be physically engaged, and I just think that it'd be fun for that. And plus, hey guys, we're gonna have you run 2 miles today. You know, as a regular classroom instructor, I don't have those opportunities to torture students physically like that. So, you know, I think that'd be a fun element of the job. I'm probably gonna get fired for saying so, but
All right. So what job would you have if you weren't a teacher, or what subject would you teach if you couldn't teach yours?
So I'm going to go on the same route as Mr. Hammond, except for I'm not going to say PE or physical education. I still would want to be a teacher. I love it. I would say that probably I would probably want to be a math teacher, only because I was terrible in math in high school, and it wasn't only until I literally took up a whole winter break with my dad at the dining room table, which he was kind of that guy, and you know, it was for my good, but that I eventually kind of opened my eyes to like, oh, I can do this, and I just, a lot of it's confidence.
Awesome.
Alright.
Yeah.
Okay, and then moving on to question 2. Can you read that for us, Ava?
If you had $1 million, what would be your plan after retirement?
after retirement,
Yes.
with $1 million,
Yeah, we'll start with you.
I'd probably travel. What else am I gonna do with that money? I'd travel around the world, go places I haven't been to, go to Europe, go to Turkey, go to Russia, go to all kinds of places. That's
whole
what I would.
world.
I'll go the whole world,
Yeah.
and then hopefully MARS as well. That'd be pretty.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. Try to get
You
on.
getting on the civilian ship? That's
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, with $1 million.
And that just blew up on impact.
Whatever. I don't care about that. Stop bringing my answer down, man.
That's a good way to go out.
Hey, this is
Yeah,
hot ones. Come on.
yeah. If it blows up, like, then no funeral expenses,
Yep.
and that would be saving money from my $1 million. All
Exactly.
right.
Okay. Your turn.
If I had $1 million after I retired, what would I do? I think I would go and travel, like Mr. Hammond said. Definitely would travel. I would probably not invest it in GameStop stock, stuff like that. But
That's probably a good idea.
yeah. No, but
Wise decision.
I would probably travel. I've never been outside of the Caribbean and Canada. I've never even been to Mexico, California, and I've never been to Europe. So I'd love to get out and go see the world a little bit.
All right, and then moving on to question 3. Can you read that for us, Ellie?
Alright, Mr. Hammond. What do students do that irritate you?
They ask questions. No. Students that irritate me. I think it's when the thing I think most students have had me is when I don't have their full attention, and when they're showing that physically or with their body language, like I'm on my phone or things like that. And when I'm giving instructions, I just feel that that's the thing that really bothers me the most, is when it's like, hey, I'm trying to do my job here, and please show it and demonstrate that by giving me your attention.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that
Yeah.
pretty easy one for me to answer.
Definitely understandable. All right, Mr. Beerman.
Yes.
What do students do that irritate you?
I think it's when they don't apply themselves. I have a saying in my class for the last 16 years, it's get off the escalator. And if you get stuck on an escalator, if it stops and you're just standing there and don't know what to do, then you're not applying yourself. Pick up your foot and your feet and walk up the stairs or down the stairs. And so I think that when a student is given all the opportunities and they know, who they can, how they can communicate and who they can work with, that they should be able to be successful. It's about advocating for your learning because you're the ones that are in charge of.
Okay, and then to end the round, we're gonna ask you one last question. Mr. Hammond, what's something interesting you want students at Legacy to know about you?
I would say that I think one of the reasons that I'm successful as a teacher is that I came from an environment, a home environment growing up that was difficult. And so there were times as a child that it wasn't fun, and I had challenges. And so I think that I'm able to relate to some kids better than some others can because I have that in my toolbox.
That's great. All right, Mr. Beerman?
Yes.
What's something interesting you want students to know?
About me? Although I'm not, the tallest guy, and I always make fun of myself in class, it gets his attention. I grew up playing hockey, and I grew up in California, Northern California, and I grew up in a little town called Santa Rosa, and it was home to Charles Schultz. And I don't know if you guys know who Charles Schultz is, but he's the guy that was the illustrator for Peanuts, like Snoopy and Charlie Brown and all those guys. Mm-hmm. And so on Saturdays before practice, because we'd have practice at 5 in the morning, he would be there in his arena, in his rink, because it was more than a rink, and they had a snack shop, but it was like breakfast. You could order breakfast. And he'd be sitting down at the table, and we would come and sit with him and chat with him for a little while about Snoopy and where all that stuff came from. So before he died, it was really cool to go and hang out with him, Charles Schultz, and say, oh, where did you play hockey? Oh, I played hockey where Snoopy came from. So it's pretty cool.
Okay, now we're going to move on to round 3, the third and final round. So starting off with question 1 for Mr. Hammond, we'll start with. Mm-hmm. What is the craziest thing that's ever happened to you while teaching?
While teaching? Okay. I think it was my first or second year, and it was actually something that, I don't know how crazy it is, but it was something where I was teaching science to 6th graders, and this one kid was very interested in my class and sat down, and I continued to teach, and I didn't have the awareness of knowing the whole classroom. And another student came up to me and said, Mr. Hammond, someone had an accident, and this kid, this little boy, had urinated all over the floor. It was a real learning lesson of how to kind of deal with it calmly, and which I did, and just to make sure that he had his needs met, and then talked to him later. So what happened? He's like, I was so excited about what we were going to do that I didn't want to go to the bathroom and miss anything. And I was like, oh, goodness gracious.
Would you like to answer that question? What is the craziest thing that's happened to you while teaching?
Top that, Beerman.
Bring it. One of the things I remember is that my first ever sub job. So, like Mr. Hammond said, is that when you go teach, when you take classes to teach, it's like you guys probably, you'll learn things in class, but you really learn by the experience, by doing it. And my first sub job ever, I got assigned a kindergarten class. So this was a K-8, just down the street from here. And I got into the kindergarten that day, and the sub left plans. And there was a wide variety of students. There were students that are higher achieving kindergartners, whatever that means. And then there's kids that are, have more needs. And so we had a couple people that were in adults to help us out. And the first day it was a kindergarten class, and the first lesson that they had was to give every kindergarten student a pair of scissors. Which was, yes, right? So you'll get thrown into the wolves. So I think one of the most exciting, one of the reasons that I walked away that day going, hey, if I can do this, I can do anything. And almost maybe with COVID and everything going on today too, is that walking out there with everybody had 5 fingers or 10 fingers, and being able to handle kindergartners when I had a secondary license to teach in 6 to 12. So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, wow. Okay. Now moving on to the second question of round 3. What time period would you travel back to, and why, Mr. Hammond?
I would travel back to 2019, before all this happened, and warn people, this is what's going to happen, guys, and hopefully change the way that we have approached our response to COVID, and just say, I'm from the future, I'm only a year and a half away, warning,
Okay, Mr. Beerman, what is time period you would travel back to?
I think what I would probably do is I'm an early American history guy. Like I got my emphasis in that, and I would love to go back into, Independence America and early American Republic and see some of that kind of stuff and be part of those conversations where people are left out, where a lot of people are left out, a lot of Americans, because it was, it was very autocratic, and so I think that would be really cool to be there when, to come back and to tell everybody that we should celebrate 4th of July on the 3rd. Because they thought it should be on the 3rd, because that's when they actually voted independence versus adopting the Declaration on the 4th. So that kind of stuff would probably be my nerdy answer.
I liked both of them. That's great.
Yes. Now moving on to question 3.
Okay, so which historical event interests you the most?
Mr. Hammond.
I'm going to say, for me, the Cultural Revolution in China. So crazy what that country went through and how young people were manipulated into Mao's doing, I think, is absolutely incredible. And just to be able to study that craziness and wildness is insane, and also to be able to bring that to my students, go, this is how crazy things can get. You think you know crazy? Here's crazy. And it's just such an interesting period. I love teaching it, and it's just completely, totally interesting.
Nice. Okay. Now we're going to move on to you, Mr. Beerman. What is your favorite historical time period that interests you the most?
Well, I taught early American history for 14 years, and then I got to teach modern American history the last 2. And, I've gotten to really enjoy some modern American history. But, one of the areas that I really like talking about is after World War II and the division of Berlin, or the division of Germany. There's a story that's pretty well known, but there was a guy named Uncle Wiggly Wings who he would fly. I mean, they would fly missions day in and day out, you guys, like 24 hours a day. If you guys would be in the cockpit 4 or 5 times a day, flying over East Berlin, dropping care packages. And this guy was named Uncle Wiggly Wings because he noticed that there were so many children that were on the east side and weren't getting what they needed, and so he dropped candy. And every time he flew over kids, they knew it. He'd drop Hershey bars, and every time he flew over kids, he would wave the wings of his airplane. So all the kids named him Uncle Wiggly Wings. And 70 years later, he's still, I think he just passed away, but he's still, I showed a video, he still was, people would remember that. Kids remember that as Uncle Wiggly Wings.
Awesome. So we're going to end round 3 there. Thank you so much for your answers. How are the wings? Are they hot at all?
Piece of cake.
Piece of cake.
They're good. They're good.
They're good.
Yeah, I want more blazing.
Oh, we
Yeah.
gotta get like the extra ghost pepper kind
That's
of
right.
kind of stuff. Okay, Savannah.
Alright, thank you guys so much. And with that spicy ending, we conclude this episode of Hot Ones Legacy Edition. A huge thank you to our special guests, Mr. Beerman and Mr. Hammond, and also Buffalo Wild Wings for their delicious contribution. Wishing you health, happiness, and a whole lot of heat. See you next time, Bolts.